Have you seen enough Dragapult yet? Well, this time we've got TORDPULT from the Players' Cup. Welcome back, everyone, to more from the Sableyes. I'm Mitch, and today we're going to be taking a look at Tord Reklev's Dragapult list that was successful in the Players' Cup Kickoff Invitational. That's a hell of a tournament name. So we'll take a look at the list in a second. I've got Jordan here to talk through it with me in a second. But before we look at the list, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Only about 30% of people who watch our videos are actually subscribed. It's free. It only takes a second, and you can always unsubscribe if you'd like. So no pressure, but it would make me feel really nice. Anyway, we'll take a look at the list and introduce Jordan. How are we doing, Jordan?
Very well, thank you. It's a very strong deck that we're looking at today.
Yes, we are. We've had tournament results, which means we can actually talk about decks that are good. It's a very exciting time. Dragapult VMAX is, I would say, probably one of the most exciting cards to have come out in the Pokemon TCG for a long time. It's probably the best Pokemon out of Rebel Clash. I'm not going to say that it's the best card, but it's definitely up there. Max Phantom for 2 Psychic, doing 130 and then placing 5 damage counters on our opponent's bench. It's pretty strong.
Oh, for sure. There's just so much going for this card. It does pretty much everything you want a top tier deck to do. It's consistent, doesn't really ask for much. It's a stage 1, so it's got a bit of an evolution in there, which is never ideal, but it's not too bad getting it into play. We've got cards like Mysterious Treasure to help with that. It does 130 damage for cheap energy cost, which is really important, and it just really allows you to make a lot of plays and make sure that you're mapping the prizes exactly how you want to, because there's so many different ways that you can utilize that 5 damage counters on the bench. And with the brand new Boss's Orders that also came out in Rebel Clash, it just makes the combos you can pull off the Dragapult VMAX really insane. Yeah,
it certainly does. So this list, as we said in the intro, is Tord's from the Players Kickoff Invitational, and he's gone for a slightly less, I don't want to say conventional, because I don't think there's any conventions when there's no tournaments being played, but it's a very, very thick 4/4 Dragapult VMAX line. And then the support line for our list here is very interesting as well. Obviously, Jirachi and Dedenne are in the deck, but there's no Mewtwo, there's no Giratina, which we've seen. We've obviously got the Dimension Breach Giratina, but no Distortion Door. There's a lot of those kind of one-of cards, things like Eldegoss as well, missing from this deck, and instead it's kind of focused in on 2 copies of Galarian Zigzagoon and some other interesting thing going on as well. It's very interesting. No Malamar also, just relying on those straight attachments.
Yeah, there's definitely a few interesting cards that have been left out, and I guess a lot of people might be asking, like, why not just cut the second Galarian Zigzagoon, put in that Distortion Door, Giratina? I think that really just shows how much Tord valued that ability from Zigzagoon, just being able to place damage on the active. 130 damage for 2 energy is certainly respectable, but it's definitely below average of the damage output that we see coming out of pretty much every other top tier deck. We see Zacian doing 230, 260 damage pretty consistently, and Dragapult's doing literally half of that damage. So we definitely need that Zigzagoon to try and pick up those knockouts on the active, because, it doesn't really matter if you can hit the bench if your opponent has more than 260 HP, and there's quite a lot of cards to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So things like ADP, very important to knock out. Those Zigzagoons could come in clutch there. We won't spend too long looking at the list. Instead, we'll focus in on some of the more interesting inclusions or different counts. Tord opting to run with 3 Acrobike in his Dragapult list. I really like this inclusion. One of the only ways that Dragapult loses games, apart from people flipping heads on Crushing Hammer, is usually because they don't get an energy attachment on turn 1. So Acrobike gives you that little bit of extra draw, that extra extension for your hand, which is always good. But another interesting inclusion, well, not inclusion, I guess, but we've got Escape Board in this list, except it's a 3 count. So opting for 3 Escape Board Tord instead of any switch. There's none here at all.
Yeah, it's definitely a very interesting decision, but when you think about it, it actually makes a lot of sense, because I'm pretty sure that every single Pokemon in this deck has 1 or less retreat costs, so Escape Board effectively acts as a switch, except that you can't play Switch and Retreat in the same turn, so it does limit your ability to use Stellar Wish too often, but instead of having Switch, it does still play the 4 copies of Scoop Up Net, as we've seen in many decks so far. It's a very strong card, allowing you to effectively access a Switch where the deck doesn't technically run any. Obviously, it works really well with that double Galarian Zigzagoon as well, and also it's just it's a really good card when you think about the fact that the wait, what was I saying? I had a point to say.
You're probably talking about Galarian Zigzagoon, right? It's going to link in nicely with that. And you've also got your Dimension Breach Giratina. This is classic stuff, Jordan. I'm glad that you're back. We've also...
but that's all right.
It's okay, you're fine. We've also got a bit of a high count of Boss's Orders in this list, toward opting for 3 copies of this supporter instead of the 2 which other lists have been playing. So valuing that extra boss is pretty solid. That means that you don't need to necessarily worry about things like Eldegoss to pick up boss in the late game. You can just draw into it. And there's also 2 copies of Shrine of Punishment in this list as opposed to Power Plant. And I think this is a pretty strong call, especially if you're expecting ADP.
Yeah, the Power Plant definitely has a lot of synergy with the Reset Stamp that this list is playing. I've seen a lot of people just win games because they get Power Plant plus Reset Stamp, but Tord is not focusing so much on that Reset Stamp combo. He's just saying, my deck's consistent, I'm just going to do what I want to do every game. I don't care if you draw what you need, because I'm just going to draw what I need and have enough damage to win the game. And an interesting point of view about this specific tournament and the deck building process for this tournament is that you're only playing against 7 other players. This was an 8-person tournament, and I'm pretty sure the players knew who they were going to be playing against. Maybe not exactly who. They knew other players in the tournament, so they could kind of build their list around trying to guess what the other players were going to play, or knowing that it's not a big field. So Tord could have made the prediction, I don't think any of these top players are going to play cards like Crushing Hammer. So I can afford to play these extra consistency cards that are a bit less greedy. So you can play the Aggro Bikes instead of the Malamar line. You can play the Shrine of Punishment instead of the Power Plant. And that's going to make his list a little bit better for the smaller 8-person field that he had to play against.
Yeah, exactly. That is an important piece of information to recollect, that yes, it was only 7 other players in that tournament, but we do need to make mention of the fact that those 7 players were probably the next 7 best players in the world. So even if you can make those decisions, you still need to play well. Overall, I really like this list. I'm not sure that the Dragapult line needs to be 4-4, but if we're being consistent and getting ourselves going every single game, then that's definitely the best way to build the deck. I think, apart from that, there's no other cards that are jumping out at me as being particularly interesting in this list. Jordan, can you see anything?
I guess maybe just talking about the slightly higher energy count. We saw one of the lists that was featured recently, playing the Zamazenta V, actually only played, I think it was 7 total energy, because they had to cut something to fit that Zamazenta V.
Oh yeah, the spicy Zamazenta. what a card.
This was playing 9 energy plus the 2 energy spinner. You do have a little less access to constant Stellar Wishes, as we said, there's no switch, but when you've got 4 Jirachi, you've got Dedenne-GX, and you've got those Scoop Up Nets to effectively act as switches for your Jirachis, you should have pretty good odds to be able to Stellar Wish for an Energy Spinner, even if you do end up missing that manual energy attachment.
Yeah, we should be fine. So what we'll do is we'll take this list out onto the ladder. We'll see if we can get ourselves a game. We're going to do live commentary again. It's a gamble. We could be here for 48 hours trying to get a game. Although, to be fair, Dragapult VMAX is one that we could probably win a game with, Jordan. I'd say that's pretty easy to do.
I got pretty high hopes.
So do I. We'll go into a game right now. Alright, it's game time. Jordan, this is game number 3. We're playing against Lightning, Grass, and Psychic. I don't know what type of deck that could be. We're probably looking at something like Pikarom or even like a Boltund kind of variant, but Pikarom seems reasonable. We'll see how.
They've got the deck box, so that seems pretty likely. And the Pikarom's a pretty good deck, so unlike the first 2 attempts in getting this deck to work, where our opponent scooped pretty quickly, hopefully our opponent will actually be able to put up a bit of a fight this time.
We'll see how we go. We've got the Dragapult in the active. We've got a Dragapult V on the bench as well. The interesting thing, I always love this choice, right? Because with Dragapult against Pikarom, like, this is all we realistically have to do. if our opponent chooses to, and if they get their Pikarom powered up, they can actually take a knockout on the Dragapult. So, like, I've attached to the active here, but we could potentially have been safe and attached to the bench Dragapult. That way it would have been impossible for our opponent to knock out the one with the energy. Although Pikarom does sometimes have those clunky hands, it looks like they are attaching to Bolton, so maybe they are just going to go for the Electrify.
Yeah, and if they were to knock us out, it probably means they would need to use the Dragapult GX plus Electro Power. It's pretty hard. Well, it's not that hard, but it's a bit harder to pull off the full Blitz knockout, because that believe needs double Electro Power. It's only one extra card, but hey, could potentially mean they have to waste their GX stack, but that's not going to be happening. They're just going to settle for the easy option, which is perfectly respectable. It's pretty strong start just to pull off that guaranteed Bolton attack with Electrify, set up the board, but it's going to give us the turn we need to get that VMAX Dragapult into play, and that's going to make it quite a bit harder for them to knock out.
It certainly will. They'll be able to get that accelerated energy. They're also playing down Thunder Mountain now, which is very interesting. We've got a chance now to get rid of that Thunder Mountain, which is going to be pretty good, although they will have 2 energy on the Pikarom anyway. So let's see how this goes. We've got a reset stamp. We're probably not going to play that. We'll attach the energy here.
Interesting play from our opponent, putting that Thunder Mountain down. Obviously, they're more scared of a Marnie than they are of a replacement stadium. But on the other hand, now that they've used Electrify from Bolton's, they might not even need the Thunder Mountain that badly. But we're still going to want to get that Shrine of Punishment, even if it's just for the damage onto the Pikarom, and that is the first card we see, so that's beautiful. We also get the double Dragapult VMAX, so no easy prize cards for our opponent in this game.
Oh, this is an interesting one, because we could grab the Dimension-y boy and remove the energy from the Bolton if we want, or we could keep digging to try and find something else. I feel like...
unless you can think that something else is that you want to dig for, I'd say the Giratina seems pretty good to me.
I feel like the Giratina is the best play here, especially since we can pick it back up again later. Alright, now, this is an interesting one. It's always interesting, because we're going to max Phantom here. Where do we place these 5 damage counters? Because we've got 2 prizes in the active. We can potentially get 2 more with Zeraora, and then maybe another one with Dedenne. But we are going to be attacked by this Pikarom here, so my gut feeling is to put all 5 on the Pikarom.
Yeah, I feel the same way. We've got that Shrine of Punishment in play now, so we can chuck all 5 on the Pikarom, and the Shrine of Punishment potentially will stay in play for multiple turns. Our opponent's already used their Thunder Mountain, and that is often the only Stadium card deck that these Pikarom decks are playing. So we could potentially use the damage from the Shrine of Punishment, plus the Horror Energy, and of course the 50 damage Snipe to maybe only have to 2-shot this Pikarom, or sorry, not 2-shot, to potentially be able to 1-shot the Pikarom after like a 1 snipe on the bench. Like there's always things you can do to make the damage relevant when you're playing this deck.
That is true. We've managed to find... They've got 3 Electro Powers here, so they're going to be full blitzing for a lot of damage. That's a very impressive full blitz. And it's just a matter of where they're going to put this energy. What was that, sorry?
I said the damage doesn't even seem that relevant. Like I'd say it's almost a waste of triple Electro Power.
Almost.
But, oh well,
that's okay.
That's their problem.
I think we're just going to go Acro Bike here. Oh, interesting choice.
I reckon the Jirachi seems pretty.
I like the Scoop Up Net to get rid of the. I like the Scoop Up Net to get rid of the energy off of the active, but at this point it doesn't really matter.
Actually, I haven't done the maths. How much HP does that active Pikarom have for me?
Active Pikarom has 130. So if we go like, 140 after that. No, 150. Shrine to 140, and then Zigzagoon. Now it's going to be exactly right.
That's perfect math.
So that seems pretty good. And then we can hold the boss for next turn. We can take the knockout, and I think we just put all the damage on the Pikarom on the bench, right?
Yeah, that's the easiest way to map our prize cards. Just take out 2 Pikaroms. Instead of taking out 1 Pikarom and then 2 other Pokemon. The Bolton is pretty juicy because it is pretty close to being knocked out anyway. So that could have been 2 easy prize cards for us, but I don't care about 2 easy prize cards when I can just take 3 instead.
Exactly, and we are in a position here where potentially a boss's orders onto the Zeraora with an extra couple of ticks on this Bolton could get us across the line as well. So we have a couple of outs here. Our opponent is going to put this Pikarom onto 90, 100, so all we need really next turn is an energy. If we can find an energy, if this Shrine stays in play, then we will win this game. So it comes down to, like, do we risk top decking the energy and put the Dragapult in the active, or do we go for the Jirachi, try and find the supporter? I think the Jirachi is the best choice.
Given our current hand, I'd say that is definitely the way to go. Obviously, we won't be able to see our top deck first, so there's no way to know if we're going to be drawing an energy or not before top decking the Jirachi. But we've still got, I think, all of our Scoop Up... we've got most of our Scoop Up Nets, but all of our Escape Boards are in the deck still, so quite a few ways to get out of the active. I guess the scariest thing here would have been the Shrine of Punishment being replaced with a different stadium, but that didn't happen. We got to keep our Shrine in play, do a bit more damage to this Pikarom, and yeah, I think just an attack from the Dragapult VMAX will be enough to close this game out.
I think it ought to be, so it's just a matter of whether we can find the energy here. We'll put the Jirachi in the active. Hopefully we can find ourselves a draw supporter, and the Shrine of Punishment tick next turn will do the job. We haven't managed to find it yet. I think we just grab out ourselves a Dragapult. Let's see how many cards we've got here. We've got Energy Spinner, which won't do the job. We've got a bunch of energy, but this is the important count here. We've got 4 draw supporters in the deck. We could also potentially find Scoop Up Net or Escape Board to get us into a second Jirachi. So we'll see how we go. Well, we're going to grab ourselves Research, I would think. That seems like the best option.
And I would also go ahead and bench the second Jirachi in case we do need to dig a little harder for something like an Energy Spinner. But yeah, this is looking pretty good for us. I think if we miss the knockout, then we probably still fine as well, because there's no way for our opponent to take 3 prize cards next turn. There's no way they're going to be knocking out our Dragapult VMAX in 1 turn. Or at least I hope they're not going to be able to do that, because we might have missed. We can still go for it with this Dedenne-GX, which is probably worth doing. Yeah, there's 6 outs to get out the active, so...
We should really hit it off of Dedenne. We should really hit it. Watch us miss it, though. Oh, that was close. They gave us the Escape Boards last. That was very cruel.
Those are some famous last words from you, Mitch.
Yeah, I know. That was very, very close. The best thing here is we get to place all 5 of these damage counters, but it doesn't actually matter, because the Shrine tick will take our knockout on Pikarom. Well, there you go. That's actually pretty easy, Jordan. I like that.
Yeah, easy game.
Easy game, absolutely. Dragapult VMAX doing the job against Pikarom yet again. So there you go. Every time we play Dragapult, we manage to find Pikarom, and there you go, another win for the Dragapult decks. I love this deck. It's pretty good, I think. If I was playing in real life, I'd be playing it all the time, but that's okay. Online is going to have to do for the moment. Thank you very much to Jordan for coming along and commentating that one with me. It's always good to have him on board. And thanks to you for coming by and watching the content. If you have enjoyed it, then please consider subscribing. Click the button that's just over here if you want to see more from us. There is a couple of videos on the side that YouTube thinks you'll like, as well as a playlist for more Rebel Clash content. We'll be back every day from now on, tomorrow, you know, whatever. We'll do some more decks. We'll see how we go. And we'd love to have you with us. So thanks. Come back next time. I've tried something new and it's fallen apart completely. Goodbye. Disastrous.